listening to the best of the Martha Zoller Show. To hear the full show each day, tune in to AM 550 and FM 102.9 WDUN or log in to accesswdun.com and click the Listen Live button from 9 to 11 Monday through Friday. John Ashbrook's here with me today. He's with the Ruthless Podcast. And, you know, we're a Fox News Radio affiliate. And in the last couple of weeks, the Ruthless guys have inked a deal with Fox News Digital. And we're so excited for them. And it's always great to talk to John Ashbrook. Welcome, John. How are you?
I'm doing great, Martha. Such a treat to be with you again this morning, and wonderful to be a part of the Fox family. I mean, it's been a whirlwind of a couple of weeks here.
Absolutely. Well, so what do you think? We got these deals coming through this morning on from the EU. We've got more coming. And then I don't know if you caught this story because it was like a little blip on the radar that there was fighting breaking out in a couple of countries in the Indonesian world. And Trump said, hey, stop it or you're not getting a tariff deal. And they've decided to stop it, and they thanked President Trump.
I mean, he is swinging an awfully hot bat right now. And if you look at European press, they're just praising these deals because they know it's good for them. They know it's good for trade. And if you look at the American press, it's the exact same thing out of the legacy media. It's just they will never change, and they'll never actually give Trump the credit he deserves, not just for trade negotiations and what he's doing to use that as a leverage point against four other countries and against their actions that are antagonistic towards us, but also their actions that are antagonistic towards each other. And I mean, if he hadn't spent the last few months saying that he is going to impose tariffs and then negotiating for deals, then countries like the two you're talking about would not have had the sort of response that they did when he simply says, look, get your act together or you're going to have a problem. I mean, he is a leader. He is an actual leader. And you know, it's about time that America gets back to the top of the heap with someone strong like him.
Amen to that. Well, I know you and the Ruthless guys are really involved in Senate races and know a lot about them and kind of have a lot of expertise in both the House and the Senate, you and Josh and Mike and Smug. And it's very interesting. We got a lot going on down here, okay, related to this seat because Jon Ossoff is up for re-election. He is the most vulnerable. Maybe now that North Carolina is in play, it'll be both Georgia and North Carolina people will be looking at. But Jon Ossoff is very vulnerable. He's had he pretends to be bipartisan, but he's very, just look at his voting record. And then now Mike Collins got into the race today, who you know very well. I think people are underestimating with him how important the Lake and Raleigh issue is in Georgia. I have been around the state at events that he's been holding, and this is an issue that unites Republican primary voters, but not just Republican primary voters, but the people of Georgia. And Ossoff and Warnock looked like they had to be dragged kicking and screaming to this issue instead of actually supporting the Lake and Raleigh bill from the beginning. So we got a busy one, and now the governor has gotten his candidate that's going to be getting in the next couple of days, kind of unknown, Derek Dooley, who's the son of Vince Dooley and has lived in and out of Georgia for his lifetime, but is from Georgia. So we got a busy Senate seat right now.
Yeah, you're not kidding. And first of all, Jon Ossoff should have never been a senator in the first place. And
that's right.
If you look at the way that he's voted, it goes beyond just voting with Democrats all the time. He has voted for open borders left and right. I mean, this is a guy who actually didn't even want the border to shut down, had opportunities to vote to shut down the border, to build the wall, and he voted the other way. And there's just no business. Georgia just does not want somebody like that making decisions on their behalf because everybody in Georgia wants the border to be managed properly. They don't want the influx of illegal immigration. Jon Ossoff has never understood that. He should have never been a senator in the first place. I really like Mike Collins. I think he's a great guy. He's going to be a great candidate. Very excited to see him get in the race.
Me too.
I don't know Dooley, don't know Dooley as well, but I'm confident if the governor likes him, he's a great guy too. So, a lot of good options to take on Ossoff, and we really, really need to win that seat next fall.
Well, and it's really interesting because I've heard it said and I've observed that the first election for Senate is not as hard as the reelect, okay? And in Georgia, we do not mind having one-term senators. I mean, in the last 25 years, we've had Mac Mattingly, Max Cleland, David Perdue, and Wyche Fowler, 2 Democrats and 2 Republicans that didn't get reelected in their second term. It's really just Saxby Chambliss and Johnny Isakson in the modern era, since Talmadge got out, has been the guys that got 3 terms, So it's really interesting. So Georgia doesn't mind kicking people out after 1 term. So hopefully that's what will happen.
Yeah, it'll be awfully nice if they continue that great tradition. And you get plenty of reason to kick Ossoff out of office because he has really, really messed things up.
So we got the big, beautiful bill passed since the last time we talked. And really, it is unbelievable how much is in this bill. It's almost like the entire Trump agenda. And all the mainstream media, I should call it the lamestream media, wants to focus on is whether Stephen Colbert got fired or not, okay? And I just think they still don't get it. I spent 2 weeks in the UK on vacation, and people are very positive about Trump over there. When they find out you're American, the next question is, what do you think about Trump? And then it goes from there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so true. And, they're probably talking about Colbert because they know that the big, beautiful bill delivered on so many of the president's campaign promises that 77 million people voted for last November. I mean, it's got no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, builds the wall and funds the Border Patrol. It dismantles some of Biden's Green New Deal. And, of course, it protects income tax cuts for millions of people and small businesses. The Democrats and their allies in the legacy media are lying about it left and right. And a good friend of mine, he's one of the top economists in our country, this guy named Bruce Thompson. He worked for Ronald Reagan and others. He wrote a column recently that went through some of the myths that Democrats are spreading about the tax cuts. For example, when Democrats claim that the bill only benefits the wealthy and the billionaires, it's completely misleading because the vast majority of the tax cuts go to middle class working people. 70% of the tax cuts go to households earning less than $500,000 a year. And Democrats also say that the tax cuts are going to explode deficits and the debt. But the bill keeps today's tax law in place, and it prevents trillions of dollars in tax increases going into effect and keeping the federal government from getting its hands on trillions of dollars that people earn and work so hard to earn every single week. We're stopping them from spending it on things like trans studies in Tanzania. So I just think that there's so many benefits to this bill, and it's gonna be a huge win for millions and millions of people out there, which is why they voted for Trump.
Yeah, and I think one of the things people have missed, because in an area like we live in and all around the country where there's the need for all of these technical jobs, one of the other things that kind of came in under the radar is expanding Pell Grants to not only be available for college educations, but for technical educations. And I think that's brilliant because that's, we need to give young people all the options. If we think it's important for government to play a role in helping underprivileged or low-income people go to college or post-secondary education, then we ought to include all post-secondary education.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And there are great arguments to be made for going to technical schools. I mean, I can think of a couple of my buddies who did not go to four-year colleges, and they went to the technical school route, and they are now they're the guys who now have they're electrician subcontractors, and they're the guys with lake houses. They're the guys who are actually making bank out there. And so, everybody who went and got their degree in English or political science, or They don't have lake houses. So I just think that there is something to be said for, because the demand for that kind of work does not go away. And there is no AI that they can develop that will solve people's problems when they have a plumbing issue in the house, and plumbers are not cheap.
No.
Great money to be made in those fields.
We're talking to John Ashbrook from the Ruthless Podcast. And before we let you go, there have been a few changes, not in the content or anything like that, but you're providing a little more content. Tell folks about that.
So with the Fox deal, a lot of people are asking, like, what's changing about your show? And the answer to that is nothing, except people get more of it. So we added a third show every week, coming out on Fridays now. And it's a little bit of, we try to make that show a little lighter than the other two shows, a little bit more candy, a little bit less vegetables, but it's a very fun thing, and it's a great opportunity for more people to hear about the show and to enjoy the content.
Yeah, I mean, I have loved it. It has been my go-to since I discovered it, a couple of years ago now. And I appreciate you, John, because it reconnected us, because we had known each other back in the day, and it reconnected us, and that was just a blessing.
Yeah, you said it, Martha. Just wonderful spending time with you, and you're so good to us. You're just a legend in this field.
It's where North Georgia comes to talk. It's the Martha Zoller Show on AM 550 and FM 102.9 WDUN.
Joining me right now is Danielle Alvarez. She's an RNC senior advisor, and we're going to talk about this just great 6 months that we have had, which I think far exceeded anybody's expectations about what could be accomplished in 6 months. Danielle, thank you so much for being with us today.
Good morning. It's great to be on with you.
So I like to break things down like in three things. You know, that's hard to do with this administration because there's like a million things. But I think the three most important things that happened is, one, the way that Mike Johnson was able to manage a 1 or 2 or 3 seat, depending on the day, majority in the House of Representatives, along with what Leader Thune did with the Senate to manage all this legislation that we needed. That was number one for me. Number two is the tariffs and what we thought they were going to do and what they ultimately have done. And I'm kind of with Kevin O'Leary that I think if we get tariff revenue, we need to pay off debt with it. But that's just, I'm one of those debt people. So I just want to be fair about that. And then number three are these peace deals where the president has been doing like averting war like once a month since he's been in office. I know he's got to be frustrated about where Israel and Ukraine are, but those were not issues of his making, and they're going to take longer to fix because of that. Am I crazy, or are those kind of your high points too?
Well, I appreciate that you started off your list of three by saying, there's probably 100 we could list, because that's the reality of this administration. It's funny. I was in the West Wing with a colleague that I worked with on the campaign, and he was just reminiscing. He was saying how crazy that the game plan that the president laid out on the campaign is exactly what he has accomplished from day one being sworn into office. The only thing, and I would ask for a list of four, because I agree with your three. I think the first bucket, I brought in tariffs to economy in general, right? Whether it's the $150 trillion coming in from tariffs, and the president has thrown out some ideas of where he might spend that money. He's thrown out the idea of rebates, paying down the debt is another great idea. The positive here for all of your listeners is that America's back. We're making money. It's going to make our nation, our families, our businesses wealthier. We're putting America first again. So I picked that first bucket, the economy overall. The second, I would say, I agree with you in these peace deals and what we're accomplishing across the globe. But let's also include their safety on the home front, what he's been able to accomplish in securing our border. And that stark contrast, because that was one of the top campaign issues that Americans cared about, was trafficking, sex trafficking, and trafficking of illicit drugs. So I would also lump into that category of yours, right? Just safety and security and peace. because that is a very big deal. And the third, I think you're exactly right, is the way that our party has been able to unify. And to put a finer point in it, I would say that the way that we will maintain majorities and expand majorities this upcoming midterms, which is going to be incredibly difficult. Historically, it's not what happens. But if it does, it will happen because of President Trump's leadership, because we have a united party, and because we are governing well and giving wins back to the American people.
You know, and I'm glad you mentioned the midterms, because I think that, you know, and far be it from me to give Democrats advice, but I think that the Democrats are doing the same thing we did in 22, where we just assumed that because it was the midterm of a president, that the party that was out of power was going to make these huge gains, because that's generally what happens. And I think that's what they're doing too. But they're also just, their whole strategy is we hate Trump, and we hate Trump a lot. That's their whole strategy. And I don't think it's going to work for them. And I know we're going to work really hard. And I'm glad you brought up the border, because I can't believe I didn't bring up the border, but I think he just so totally solved that problem, like basically the minute he got into office, that we almost forget the great work that he did on the border, which is going to give us the opportunity to actually fix legal immigration. We have been so focused on illegal immigration, and in my listening area is the University of Georgia, and of course Laken Riley was killed by an illegal immigrant, and that galvanized not only our community but throughout the country, that horrible event about what the cost of illegal immigration was. But we have got to, we got to fix legal immigration, and we've got a lot of work to do.
Well, I think you hit two incredible points. The first, you said, not far be it from me to give Democrats advice. Let's be real. They wouldn't take good advice if it smacked them in the face. They're absolutely rudderless. And, I hate to, be so crass about it, but I hope they continue this way. I mean, right now they're pushing out AOC and Bernie Sanders, and that's not working. So maybe let's go back to Nancy Pelosi. It's really embarrassing for them at this point. I mean, and we can just park that where it is, because they have nothing more than opposing President Trump. And the problem for them is that he is accomplishing goals that the American people begged him to tackle throughout the campaign. Again, whether it's the economy, you don't hear Democrats talking about prices anymore. The price of eggs are down. The price of gas is down. The price of energy keeps coming down. You don't hear them talking about any of the traditional attacks, because they have nothing. This president is just 100 miles an hour, win after win for the American people. And I will say this on the border, you're absolutely right. I mean, it is devastating what open borders have done to our communities, to your community in Georgia firsthand, with the horrific and tragic murder of Laken Riley. I will also say the inverse as a Hispanic American woman. Having an open border is inhumane, not just for American citizens who are having to deal with that onslaught of illegal drugs, illegal human trafficking coming into our nation, the rise of crime, but it's also inhumane for Hispanics or individuals who are trying to cross the border. How many times have we seen videos of young children being thrown over a border wall by the cartel and left in the desert to die? Women drowning in the Rio Grande, horrific stories about women who are brutally raped by the cartel. Nothing about an open border works. We are a nation of law and order, and you said it exactly right. We have to fix our system so that we can get the best and brightest into our nation, so that we can continue to grow. I mean, America first is just the way that it has to be. And again, as a Hispanic American, I know that my parents legally immigrated to this country, and I am so proud to be an American, to have every opportunity that our nation brings. But it has to be done legally, and we are a nation of law and order. We have to have a secure border for the protection of our country and our citizens.
I've got two other quick questions for you. I worked for David Perdue in his first term, helped him get elected, and worked for him in his first term, setting up his field office and doing communications for him. And he and Tom Cotton put out a bill called the RAISE Act, which I hope that when we get to the point that we can look at reforming legal immigration, that will get another look, because I think that it was a great solution to the problems that we had and was merit-based. But secondly, I'm glad you also brought up the human trafficking component of this. You know, liberals like to say they care about women and children, but all along the Biden administration, basically what we had was 21st century slavery in the 300,000 children that were missing that Tom Homan, I follow every day the announcement he makes about children that he's liberated and found, and that some of them were fine, but many of them were not. And the fact that there was not outrage by people like Senator John Ossoff and others about these young people that were being lost in our country, and that basically were 21st century slaves because they were either being labor trafficked or sex trafficked.
Listen, Democrats are absolutely hypocritical. Don't tell me you care about women and children when you have no idea how to define a woman, and when you support the mutilation of our children for the sake of woke gender ideology. I don't buy it. Democrats are a mess. It's why they have the lowest approval rating that we have seen in a very, very long time. And you made an incredible point. We have over 300,000 children that under the Biden administration went missing. And thank God for this administration who has put the full force of government to try to rescue these individuals. You know, you also mentioned tackling a system for legal immigration. I think that has to be a step in the future. But right now, we need to make sure to deport the millions upon millions of illegal immigrants who poured into our country through Joe Biden's open southern border policy, because the only people that benefited, to be very clear, was the cartel. It was the cartel. And if you listen to what the cartel are saying now, they're saying, we're not even going to try because we're not messing with President Trump. That's the type of leadership we need. We need to make sure that every nation respects us, that every individual respects us. And that's why I get so excited. 6 months, and I think we're like about a week or 6 months, a week or two in, we are on the map again. America is back. Families are thriving. Businesses are on the up. And I can't wait to see what the rest of the 3 years looks like. But that's why those midterms are important. We cannot stop this progress at 2 years by handing the House and the Senate to Democrats. We need to make sure that we have 4 years of success based on the mandate we received in November, the popular vote, 13 battleground states gaining with every demographic. We need to make sure that continues on for 4 years and we don't halt it at 2. We've got to make sure to get involved in the midterms. And I have to do a shameless plug. All of your listeners, please head to GOP.com to get involved.
Absolutely. And we've got to win the midterms. We've got to win 28 and 32 so that we can solidify and codify all of these things that we're doing so that we can change the direction for the next 40 years the way Ronald Reagan did in 1980. You know, that's what we've got to do. And Danielle Alvarez, this has been a joy. I appreciate your energy, your positiveness. And you know what? That's it. We're happy warriors. That's why we're going to win.
That's exactly right. And thank you so much for the opportunity to be on with you this.
Putting the talk in news talk. It's the Martha Zoller Show on AM 550 and FM 102.9 WDUN.
Now we're talking to Tricia Pridemore from the Public Service Commission. We had a few questions come in for her, which we'll get into in a moment, but we really want to talk about her national fireside chat with Lee Zeldin on American energy, because he is really making waves in making energy better and cheaper in the United States. So, Tricia Pridemore, welcome to the program. How are you?
Good morning, Martha. How are you?
I'm so good. It's great to hear from you, and it's great to hear you partnering up with Lee Zeldin. Tell us about that.
Administrator Zeldin gave an excellent address to the National Association of Regulatory Utility Commissioners yesterday at our summer policy meeting, and we were honored and blessed that he made the time and his staff made the time to come meet with state regulators. They're making so many great changes at the EPA, changes that align with the way that Georgia looks at the environment and the economy. He talked in some very specific repeals and deregulatory measures that they're doing untying MATS regulations, which are Mercury Standard regulations, repealing the endangerment finding. He talked about some very specific things that are driving the cost of electricity and energy in customer bills all across the country. And Administrator Zeldin talked about why he and President Trump are working to repeal these policies that the EPA established outside of Congress, outside of any other of governing body that represents the people, but the EPA rules themselves, and how this is going to directly lower rates, work overtime to be able to ensure that we have a clean environment, but at the same time that we're not wrecking the economy. And he really spoke, I think, really passionately to people from regulators from all 50 states, and gave a message that, they probably haven't heard before, which is that our country has one of the cleanest environments and highest environmental standards, even without all the most recent rules and policies that were pressed down during the Biden administration and during the second year of the Obama administration. We can have economic growth and prosperity for Americans and still have a clean environment. And I believe this message was very powerful. It was well received, of course, well received by states like Georgia, but also well received by some of the other state regulators that have to really grapple with legislatures or governors that push a hardline environmental climate change agenda.
Yeah, that's a huge thing. And he is really opening this up. He spoke to the guys at the Ruthless broadcast this week about some of the regulation changes he's made. He called it the biggest regulation change in the history of America as far as things go. But I think that it really is important. I just came back from a vacation to the UK, and they have so many rules around their energy. And the average person, not only do they pay more for a home, they pay 2, 3, 4 times as much as we do for energy. And they have a lot more limitations. And they don't even have air conditioning, and they're still paying more. So it's important that we keep these costs low, because home ownership and being able to maintain where you live with the cost that it is really a cornerstone of the American dream.
Martha, I couldn't agree with you more. And especially here in the South, especially here in Georgia, we rely heavily on our HVAC units. We rely heavily on the necessity of clean water. And the work that he's doing at the EPA is directly helping Georgians to be able to keep costs low and keep Washington from getting such a high share of our wallet, but at the same time, ensuring that we've got sound environmental standards. Administrator Zeldin also went into the work that they're doing with water, and that is fascinating. Here in Georgia, the Georgia Public Service Commission, we don't regulate water, but water regulations are done by cities and counties. And Administrator Zeldin talked about some of the things that they're doing to help cities and counties and water commissions to be able to set standards to ensure that we have clean water. Water is the only utility that we ingest, and so it is necessary for it to be clean, but it is not necessary for there to be rules and regulations placed on water that don't have anything to do with cleanliness.
So have you had this National Fireside Chat with him, or is that coming?
I had it yesterday.
Perfect.
We had it yesterday, and it was so well received. It really was. It was an honor to have a cabinet secretary at NARUC, and he talked so passionately about his and the president's agenda and their vision and what they're doing at the EPA. The EPA has been weaponized in recent administrations. And they have used the rulemaking procedures at the EPA to drive up the cost of electricity, gas, oil, water. I can go through cars, transportation, buses. I can go through a list of ways and rules that they have used that agency to push a radical green agenda. And that radical green agenda, it's not benefiting Americans, and it's certainly not benefiting Georgians.
Now, later this month, you'll be voting in the PSC for the state's new energy plan. Can you give us an overview of that?
Yes. So the state's new energy plan, we will have a final reconsideration will expire in about a week, and that is the 20-year plan for Georgia Power on generation, 10-year on transmission and distribution. This plan is a growth plan that includes new capacity to help Georgia meet the needs of a growing energy state. We have an increase in population. We have new manufacturing plants coming in, onshoring of manufacturing that we're continuing to see. We all know that there's a lot of blue state policies that are pushing people to Georgia. And with that growth, we need to be able to serve their energy needs. We're also, and I think we've talked about it before, we're also one of the key states in the country for data centers. And data center growth is happening across Georgia, particularly outside of the metro Atlanta area or within the belt around Atlanta. We're seeing that because of the need for data center growth for AI. And the tech companies have chosen Georgia because of our pro-business environment. And I want to work with them because this is a way that the tech companies can be a part of the Georgia ecosystem. I don't know if you know this, but in 2023, data centers just back then represented $1.8 billion in state and local revenues. It was about $28 billion in Georgia's gross domestic product, in our GDP. If you look at the ability for these data centers to provide revenue into state and local governments, locals really where it pays off. We're seeing counties that have business plans right now for a complete retirement of their property taxes. Other counties that need to make infrastructure investments, like in their water systems, are able to use that revenue there. And across the board, we're seeing an increase in funding for schools into these counties. So it's an exciting time. We're doing all this work here at the Georgia Public Service Commission with the customer in mind. We've got to maintain a safe, reliable system, but we've got to do so without customers bearing these costs. And the rules that we've put forward are going to put just in the first allotment of data centers that are going to be coming online within 2027, 2028, they're going to put over $2 a month downward pressure on Georgia Power customer bills. So we're leveraging this work and this collaboration. It is a lot of work, but it is an exciting time to be in Georgia energy and in American energy.
So we had a question come in from Alan in Rabun Gap that wanted you to explain the legislative protection that Georgia Power receives through what he thinks is called guaranteed return on equity, and does Georgia Power sell power to EMCs?
That's a great question. The way that our state's energy system was established many, many decades ago, it's what we call our market structure. So first and foremost, you have 5 public service commissioners. Our offices are outlined in the Georgia Constitution. We're elected by the voters to represent the needs of a safe, reliable system and, of course, customer affordability. Then you have a territory map where Georgia Power has customers, 41 EMCs have customers, and 47 municipal electric providers, they have customers. Within that, we do the planning and the rate making for Georgia Power, and only Georgia Power. That planning process is what I just described to Martha, which is a 20-year generation and 10-year transmission plan. On the rate making piece, they come to they're legally required, Georgia Power is, to come to the commission every 3 years for a rate case. Now, the state can work out and negotiate with the company if they want to stay out, which has happened several times. It happened, I believe, in 2016 was the last time, and we just worked out a stipulated agreement for them to stay out again. What that means is that Georgia Power rates do not increase. They stay flat. And we're seeing significant spikes in the cost of electricity in many, many states: Illinois, California, New York, Massachusetts, Ohio. The list goes on, and North Carolina. Florida. The list goes on and on and on. And we are able, for the next 3 years, to have stability and consistency and keep rates flat. That return on equity is a piece of that rate case, and that is decided by the Georgia Public Service Commission. Georgia Power files. We put up witnesses as a staff. We have interveners, many, many interveners that come in, and we operate a hearing just like you do in a court of law.
So we have another question that came in. Larry said, ask about propane in HVAC units, prices going up 40%. Do you all have any control over propane prices?
We have no control over propane prices. I'm sorry, Larry, but I'm hearing this complaint a lot across the state.
Yes, absolutely. And one final question, because I know we're almost to the end of our time here. People are confused about the PSC elections that are happening this year and what's going to ultimately happen in the fall. Just can you give us a quick overview of that?
You bet, Martha. This November, we have two PSC commissioners, Commissioner Tim Echols and Commissioner Fitz Johnson, on the ballot. I want your listeners to pay attention to this race. Be sure that they go vote. We have one of the leading energy and utility systems that is regulated in our country. And it's why people like Administrator Zeldin want to engage and talk with us. There's great things, conservative, strong things happening in Georgia. And so Fitz and Tim are going to be on the ballot in November. Reach out to them, learn about their campaigns, learn about their experience and the great work that they're doing. And please be sure to go vote.
Absolutely. Tricia Pridemore, if people want to get more information from you, how do they do that?
Find me at psc.ga.gov. I would love to talk with anybody that has questions. It's an honor to serve. I love our state. I love our country. And I'm excited about the awesome things happening.
Tricia Pridemore, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Martha. All the best.
To hear the full versions of last week's Martha Zoller shows, go to the podcast page at accesswdun.com, and you can follow me on social media at Martha Zoller.